Have you seen what it's like out there, Murray? Do you ever actually leave the studio? Everybody just yells and screams at each other. Nobody's civil anymore. Nobody thinks what it's like to be the other guy. You think men like Thomas Wayne ever think what it's like to be someone like me? To be somebody but themselves? They don't. They think that we'll just sit there and take it like good little boys, that we won't werewolf and go wild. How about another joke, Murray?
No, I think we've had enough of your jokes.
What do you get?
I don't think so.
When you cross a mentally ill loner with a society that abandons him and treats him like trash.
Call the police,
I'll
Gene.
tell you what you get.
Call the police.
You get what you...
Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Film Asylum. We are your hosts, Colin Peters here.
John is dead, my friend. You can call me Joker.
Shut the fuck up, man. And Jeff Manfred. Seriously, really go with that fucking line?
Yes, I'm gonna go with that.
You're a fucking loser.
What do you mean loser?
Over there wearing your fucking Batman shirt.
I'm proudly displaying this Batman shirt. Yes, it's not a Joker shirt, but it's still the same universe.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
We all know it's not.
Yes, it is. Let's just continue with this.
Yeah, we're going to continue this because
John Marchetter.
We know this.
most of the time we've been talking about past movies that we like, but this time we're going to go with the most current movie that we've had yet. Actually, 2019 movie, so super current. Yeah. And that is Todd Phillips' Joker with Joaquin Phoenix, who won the Oscar. It was a big deal when its movie came out. Came out in October of 2019, and it became the highest-grossing movie, not just of October, but also for a rated R film as well.
Yeah. Actually just officially ended its domestic run, and we was in 49th place in, well, this past Sunday or whatever. It only grossed $24,000, but the fact that it was still making money 3 months after the Blu-ray release is incredible. Its final total was $1.74 billion. Sorry, 1.074. So just under 1.1. Still. That's
incredible for a movie that, didn't this only cost like $15 million?
$50 million. That's how much it cost to make. Because I think Warner Brothers, they didn't want to give it a big budget. I think that's why Joaquin Phoenix was drawn to the project, just because it wasn't an overblown $100+ million budget. And the fact that it was going to be a one-and-done movie, which I still hope it is.
I remember originally they were talking about it being a one and done, and they wanted to keep it low, keep it gritty, kind of independent, I guess was the feel that they were going for, and separate from this DCE Universe that they were doing with Batman versus Superman, Justice League, and now the Wonder Woman, Aquaman spinoffs. Mm-hmm. This was just supposed to be a standalone Joker story.
Which I like. I don't think everything has to be a connected universe. This proves it wholeheartedly. Now, I heard rumors going around, I don't know if this is true or not, but they want to continue in the same vein of Joker, but they want to focus on other villains, and I think they're going to stick with, like, the Batman lore. One thing I heard, I'm not sure if this is going to happen or not, but they want to give sort of the same treatment of Joker to Mr. Freeze. And not have Arnold Schwarzenegger be a pun machine.
Listen, the pun machine was the best part of that fucking movie.
Of course it is.
Yo, eyes to see you.
Everybody chill.
I liked looking at Uma in that movie.
You fucking would, too.
Yeah, would is right.
Even though every scene was a carnival scene and you had to remind yourself, yes, this is a Batman movie. I swear to you, this is a Batman movie.
Fucking bat nipples.
Butt shots and bat nipples.
Well, watching this movie, I kind of had to remind myself that this is part of a Batman universe. Because
it is.
In a lot of ways, it doesn't really feel like it. It does feel like its own thing, which is great and it's fantastic because that was the goal they were going for. But I kind of felt like you could actually take a lot of the Batman stuff out of this movie, and the movie could be all right on its own.
I can see that, yes. But at least the good thing is that the Batman stuff is so far in between the movie, because this really feels like a giant showcase for Joaquin Phoenix and the Joker. He's probably on screen 95% of the movie. I think almost every scene has him involved. There's never a scene where it's like two different characters talking, having a conversation with him not being a part of it. He's on camera for that amount of time, and that's great. The fact that it's called Joker and you see Joker on camera, it doesn't feel like a movie where, oh yeah, he's the main character, but it's really about this character, which is kind of misleading, and that angers people. Like, this movie's supposed to be called this, but he's barely in the film. He's always on film. He's always the topic of discussion. He's always the focus, and that was refreshing to see. It was also refreshing to see somebody who didn't have stupid tattoos with the word damaged on his forehead. That was refreshing to see.
Oh, gosh. That Jared Leto Joker was dog shit.
It was. It got the taste out of my mouth, thank God, because at least... And in ways, this costume is very reminiscent of Cesar Romero's image from the Adam West Batman Joker, which I loved. Some people had an issue with it wasn't a whole lot of purple. I don't care. It reminded me of Cesar Romero. So in a lot of ways, it was tributing it and trying to be its own thing. That's another thing why I love this movie. Joaquin Phoenix is doing something very different from the other Joker incarnations, where it felt like Jared Leto was trying to be an amalgamation of Heath Ledger and Cesar Romero and all these people in one person. He's doing his own thing, and that was good to see.
Yeah, Jared Leto's Joker was... I think the director was the one who said he wanted Joker to be like Scarface, which... what?
Why would you do that?
Exactly. And Joaquin was absolutely fantastic in this movie.
It really was.
Honestly, he's probably the best thing about this movie.
Oh, hands down.
I mean, like I said,
the Oscar that he won for it, he deserved it. He put his whole heart into it. He fucking went way over than he needed to.
He lost weight. He smoked cigarettes every day.
And anybody who has done acting, whether it's lighthearted acting or deep character acting, they know sometimes it does take you to a dark place. I think that stuff with Heath Ledger from The Dark Knight, though, was blown out of proportion. I've seen interviews with his family and friends, and they said that wasn't anything that contributed to his death. But I saw that he did have a journal, and he did like really dive deep into the mental illness and dark place aspects, and I'm pretty sure Joaquin did as well. I didn't really follow it because, I'll be honest, I wasn't super hyped for this movie when it was coming out.
Okay.
I just heard the origin story and I thought, okay, and I'm thinking, well, what are we getting? Mm-hmm. Because this realism comic book thing has become a big deal since Christopher Nolan did the Dark Knight trilogy. There were so many people then that said, oh, every comic book movie has to be real now. And I disagree with that. If you're making a movie, I think you should bring the comic to life is what it is. Mm-hmm. Which is why I absolutely loved more what Zack Snyder did with Ben Affleck's Batman. Mm-hmm. And Superman. I felt like what he did was he was bringing them to life with a modern twist, but he made it realistic. He didn't CGI the crap out of the characters either. The costumes were very comic book accurate, but also believable.
The bat suit was awesome.
I think even some of the shots he used were definitely more comic book related, like especially in the whole Batman vs Superman. There was shot for shot some stuff pulled right from the comic book.
The Dark Knight Returns.
Yeah, exactly. And I absolutely love that. There's, it was its own thing. They paid tributes and homages to the comics and brought that to life, which was really great to see. It was believable. It did kind of remind me of the original Tim Burton, Michael Keaton Batman, where I felt like that was something that came to life, too. Well, was Keaton's Batman outfit accurate? No, because it was all black, and at the time, you didn't have an all-black outfit at that moment. Mm-hmm. But it fit for the movie. It did. And the Batmobile had the bat wings on it, and the bat wing looked like the bat symbol, which kind of had that like Adam West, campy screaming, imagery to it, but yet it was comic book related. Even Jack Nicholson's Joker gadgets, it was stuff come to life, and some stuff that did kind of come over from the show was in that movie. There's actually a lot more tributes to that show that is in that movie and in Batman Returns, actually, that we don't really pay attention to.
Listen, though, one thing I got to say about the Burton's Batman, how the fuck did Joker hide that gun in his pants? And it was walking around clearly fucking fine. That gun is bigger than his fucking leg, all right? He whips that bitch out and shoots down the bat plane and...
Hey, listen, Jack Nicholson partied hard back in the day, so imagine what else he's carrying in his pants.
The only thing I can think of is that the script called for it. Because the script said so. That's why it was longer than his leg. That's how he was able to pull it out of his pants pocket.
All right, hold on. To be fair, there was a writer's strike, so they were...
Right before that happened, the bat plane did go up into the moon and gave us the iconic Batman symbol imprint on the moon. And then it came down. That was awesome.
But going back to having the art of the comic book come to life, I thought that's what breaking away from this realism aspect and what people didn't grasp after the Nolan movies were. That's another reason why I can appreciate the first Ninja Turtles movie so much, even more after all these years, because that movie still holds up. Those were guys and actors and stuntmen in costumes, and it looked like they came from the page of the comic books. It wasn't the cartoon. It was comic book, brought to life.
Dark, gritty, ultra-violent. Fuck right, that's pretty much what that first comic series was.
Killing people? Yeah.
And it holds up. It really does hold up. Now, I think some people could argue with me and say, well, here you are talking about the turtles looking real in that movie. Isn't that realism? Well, yeah, but how else are you going to make a mutant turtle? You're not just going to make it look like a cartoon. Otherwise, you get that crap that we got in those Michael Bay produced movies. That was horrible.
We don't have to go into that.
That was absolute trash. That was typical Michael Bay garbage.
Yeah.
It was Transformers, but turtles. All right, we got this.
The only thing I liked about was the look of Donatello. I thought he had a cool look to him. And that was pretty much it, with the goggles and the high-tech gear on his face. That looked cool, but the movies were still trash.
But that's the stuff I miss, the practical effects and that making you believe that the stuff from the comics can actually happen. And in this movie, Joker, they went more of that Christopher Nolan route.
Of course. They did.
There were people who said that they felt like this was kind of like the prequel to Heath Ledger's Joker, which I can see, but it still is its own thing. But you can still see it in your mind and go, okay, this is what could potentially be Heath Ledger's prequel.
Right. I mean, when you go into this movie, I was not expecting Batman to show up. I was really hoping he didn't show up, and he didn't, thank God, because of the timeline that's being discussed in the movie. And we didn't get any major CGI car wrecks, explosions, and gunfights. We didn't really see that. I wasn't expecting that going in, because with a $50 million budget, you work with what you have, and they absolutely used the budget to its maximum capacity. And the fact that we didn't have any overblown CGI, it was refreshing to see something like this with a small budget. Like I said, we get all these comic book movies that have $100+ million, $200 million budgets. It's just one big CGI spectacle. Some of it looks good, some of it looks awful. Because, you can have great CGI, but it doesn't mean great movie. But when you have bad CGI, doesn't make it a good movie. And this movie has none of that. And that was refreshing to see as well.
It's become a crutch for filmmakers for anything and everything. I mean, heck, they even use it for makeup now. Sometimes it does look better than actual makeup. I will say that. But it is becoming like a norm, and I don't really care for it a whole lot when it's super overblown.
Right.
Like, I enjoy seeing live sets, and I know, like, well, too, just from like working on stage as well, and when we're on a film set, and whether you're acting, even guys behind the set is another costume in a way.
Absolutely. It helps the environment, and it helps your performance.
And it helps you feel that atmosphere to say, like, well, this will make me feel like this. You're just in front of a green screen, and they say, this is what you got to pretend. Like, oh, here comes Thanos and the Hulk.
Right.
And you still see Mark Ruffalo and James Brolin in a CGI suit, and they're like, oh yeah, we're going to put that in later.
With motion cap work and everything, yeah.
That seems like a shitty experience. I'm sorry.
I mean, the end result is cool, and it has gotten...
But is it... Like, truthfully, honestly,
Exactly.
Marvel's been pissing me off with all that shit. Because they've been catering to so many fucking, like, the general masses that it ultimately takes away from the movies. Because, like, oh yeah, we're going to make it for everybody. No, fuck off, all right? Listen, DC has stuck with their fans, and then they fucked over Zack Snyder because they wanted a Marvel movie. Well, they fucked up Justice League because of that. They're going to fuck up everything because of that. This is, I think, the reason I'm surprised they even made the Joker. Because, oh, it's hot right now. Let's fucking do it. No, man, you literally should not have made this movie right at that time. They should have fixed what they fucked up and then made this movie. But this was I was kind of, obviously you can tell I'm fucking against it still. I was against it at the time. I'm still against it now. Only because the aspect of what they already fucked up, I didn't want them to fuck up even more. Like, yeah, we're getting another Wonder Woman now. We're getting, fucking Shazam 2 and Black Adam. But they're also now starting a third fucking universe. Warner Brothers needs to get their shit together. That's the major problem I'm having right now.
I think they are starting to do that because I think they realized with Batman v Superman, which I still think it should have just been a solo Batman movie from the beginning, not bring in Superman until later. They should have done that. They should have had The Dark Knight Returns with Ben Affleck, and it would have been incredible.
Oh, yeah.
They tried to do so much too soon, and that's why it crumbled. They tried to catch up with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and they realized that should not be our goal because they've already had 10 years before us to prepare for these moments. And yes, there are Marvel movies that I absolutely love, but there are some that I think feel like conveyor belt movies. They honestly feel like they were manufactured by a machine. They look exactly like other previous movies that we've already seen. There is no soul. I can't tell who the fuck directed the movie because they all look so similar.
Black Panther.
I'm talking. Yeah, like there are some that stand out to me, like the first Avengers movie by Joss Whedon, Captain America: The Winter Soldier, because not only are the action scenes great, but they provide thought-provoking questions. But then I see movies like Captain Marvel, the first two Thor movies, the Ant-Man movies, even Doctor Strange. They all feel like they were made by the same director. I can't tell who directed them.
Oh, I totally agree with that.
Actually, for this movie, Joker, if you told me Todd Phillips directed this movie, I'd think you're crazy because you're telling me this is the guy who made the Hangover trilogy, who made Joker, who made Road Trip? No way did this guy make this movie, but he did because I think he's improved as a director. I mean, there are so many good things about this movie. The cinematography, the music, the makeup, which we've kind of hinted at a little bit, the script, solid for the most part. And everything else around it, it's just such a great-looking movie. The score, I can't get enough of this movie. I'm going to probably butcher her name, but Hildur Gunnadóttir from Iceland. And she's a musician, a composer. She also did the score for one of my favorite TV shows, Chernobyl, which is an incredible, phenomenal show. She does something very unique. She incorporates sirens, machines, and other noises into her scores. And I could tell with that movie, but it's even more prevalent in Chernobyl. But she's got such a great career ahead of her. And she won the Oscar for this movie, and I think she well deserved it.
Oh, yeah, totally. I just wanted to say, going back to what you were saying, Jeff, about being angry about the thing Warner Brothers was doing. No, I agree with you. I remember at one point they were talking about doing so many Harley Quinn spinoffs at one point.
Yeah.
They wanted a Jared Leto, Margot Robbie, Joker, Harley Quinn solo movie, and then they wanted a Gotham City Sirens movie where it was Harley Quinn, Poison Ivy, and Catwoman. Mm-hmm. And then in the end they said, no, we're just going to do Harley Quinn and the Birds of Prey together.
Mm-hmm. Which I enjoyed.
I enjoyed that as well.
Dude, that fucking sandwich.
That goddamn sandwich. That police raid sequence, I won't forget that one. Just how bonkers and absurd it was.
It was a lot of fun, and I'm glad it got the praise it did because that really was a lot more fun than what I thought the trailer showed it to be. Mm-hmm. And that was also like Warner Brothers, I think, recognizing that, hey, we got to make more of a better product here.
Exactly.
Because they were just, like you said, they were going off the rails. It was almost like they knew Margot Robbie and Harley Quinn could make money, so let's try to plug her in now with everything and anything. Yeah. Ben Affleck was getting ready to give us something, but he has his own demons that he had to, face, unfortunately. And on top of that, who knows what was actually going on behind the scenes? Because it sounded like Warner Brothers had no idea what they were doing.
I'd say that, and the fact that like every movie that got put out at that point, they were cutting like 45 minutes, half hour out of, and half the time they would reference the time that's missing. So it actually wrecked the story. They were shooting themselves in the foot while putting out these theatrical releases, and they're wondering why it's fucking bombing. Come on, Batman vs. Superman, they cut out a fucking half hour. They referenced that half hour at least 5 times. But you don't know what the fuck they're talking about until you see the extended cut, and you're like, oh, this makes so much sense now. They shot themselves in the foot on purpose. They wanted it to fail.
And Suicide Squad was the same way. They cut so much out of that, and then when you heard that there was going to be another extended version of it coming out, I mean, not that it really helped Suicide Squad out at all.
No, hell no, it did not.
But
God.
But then when Justice League also came out, they said, well, we got the Snyder footage still floating around somewhere, and it kind of became a cliche of, well, why should I go see these Warner Brother movies if you guys are cutting out all this good stuff and you're saying, oh, these extended cuts apparently are better.
Yeah.
And you're not showing us this, but we got to go pay for the crappy version?
Right.
And, it's like, it's no wonder Justice League didn't do so well.
That's why they fired the people involved, and Walter Hamada is now overseeing productions, and his focus is now just making solo movies and making them good.
Yeah.
And also, he's working with smaller budgets. We just talked about Birds of Prey. That was $85 million.
Wow.
I think they should continue working with smaller budgets. Shazam was $100 million, and that was a moderately good success. That's why we're getting a sequel, and that's why we're getting Dwayne Johnson's Black Adam movie, which I actually am very pumped to see it.
Well, that's going to be $100 million budget because he's easily $20 million.
I thought he was going to be the budget.
He was the budget.
They're just going to literally like do guerrilla style filming and be like, all right, run over here and punch that. All right, let's get the fuck out of here.
I mean, he's been cast in that role for 7 years. He's been attached to that role for so long, and now he's finally making the movie. Now it's finally got a director, and I think it's going to start shooting this year, too.
Well, yeah, he's got to finish up fucking Jumanji 3. Jesus Christ.
This movie's budget, only $50 million. I think they should continue going in this direction with smaller budgets, not just for DCEU, but for also, I guess it's called DC Dark. I don't know if it's really called that, but these movies that they want to maybe try and focus on, like solo character studies, which is what Joker is. It's a character study. I know we have different opinions about this movie. I really love it. I do know that there are some things that are similar to other movies. Like, if you've never seen Taxi Driver and you watch Taxi Driver, you can kind of see where this movie correlates to how that movie's going to end. Sort of like King of Comedy. Martin Scorsese was attached to be a producer of this movie, but I think he backed out. But it has the aesthetic and feel of a Martin Scorsese film, even though he didn't make it.
Which, I'm glad you brought that up, because you know how Scorsese was pissing and moaning about comic book movies?
Yes.
And he said they're more like roller coaster rides.
He didn't call them like real movies.
Yeah. I felt like he should shut the hell up, because most of his movies are the same thing, like gangsters and shootings, and it's like, so your stuff is that unique? I'm not saying he makes bad films, but he's another one of these Hollywood guys that even when he said that, it seemed like nobody could really call him out and say, listen, dude, this is the evolution of the business yet. It's the modern day Western. People want to see this stuff come to life. And it's entertaining, and it does have good story and heart that could influence and, make you think at the end. I mean, do they all do it? No, but still, they have substance to them. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I don't understand why people had to wipe his ass all the time and say, look, Martin, you're great, but, just cut back. No, shut the fuck up and accept the fact that this is not the time that you were in anymore. And then he originally wanted to help produce this. This is based off a fucking comic book character.
Yeah.
I don't think he read the script. Pretty much, it seems like, I didn't know it was a comic book movie. No, fuck off, dude.
Because he was a producer credit, but still, like,
Listen, I'm not watching The Irishman. I don't have 3.5 fucking hours to waste.
I didn't watch it right away. I watched it in spades. Like, okay, an hour and a half here, and then finish the rest of the movie later. Like, I feel like that's the way to watch some of these 3.5 hour long movies. You can't just sit down and watch. I can't. I just can't. I gotta. If it's streaming, take an hour and a half, walk away, and then maybe tomorrow watch the rest of it. Find a good stopping point. You have to know what he had to have known what the Joker was.
If he didn't, then he's an idiot, and he should have been called out for it more. I mean, there's really no excuse for that, and for whatever reason he dropped out. I mean, he can say whatever he wants, but I mean, people in Hollywood lie all the time. Mm-hmm. Even in documentaries and biographies, they tell you this and that happened, and it's like, did it really? Mm-hmm. You know, they know how to put on a show even for reality TV, quote unquote.
I mean, think of this. Like, 20 years ago, if you did a survey of the average film goer who doesn't read comic books, they don't know what DC is, they don't know what Marvel is, but I guarantee you, if you held a picture of Joker and held a picture of Thanos, and you interviewed said kids or a guy or a girl, I guarantee you they would say, oh, that's the Joker. Who's that giant purple guy with the shiny golden gauntlet? Who the fuck is that?
That's Grape Ape. Come on, man.
Is that Grimace with the gauntlet? Like, oh, that's the Joker. I don't know who the fuck that guy is, but that's the Joker. Like, everybody knows who the Joker is. You don't have to just read a comic book. You can just tell that's the Joker, because we've had years and years and years of buildup just from the TV show, from Tim Burton's movies, and then from Suicide Squad. Still, people know who he is. He's just synonymous. He's known as the greatest villain of all time.
He's a pop culture icon, and he's so likable as a villain that in some ways it's kind of like a Freddy Krueger thing, where it's like, should I be laughing as he's killing somebody? Because he does have some funny moments to his, tragedies that he's causing. And he's also a very unique and standout looking character. Yeah. So, Thanos is just kind of like an alien from space, but here's a guy that's, like a suave clown in a way, really, because he's got dressed in gangster attire, and he'll wear a fedora and a long coat, but he's got pale white face, clown makeup on, bright green hair. Something's clearly not right with this picture.
I know in the test footage, or at least like the teaser when I didn't know what to think of this makeup when I first saw it. And then when they had those leaked professional photos hit online, like, they weren't leaked. They were intentionally done. The makeup grew on me. I didn't know what to think of it at first when we saw that one image of Arthur Fleck just standing, and then the camera was zooming in as you saw what looked like a subway car passing by, and you see the light flashing, and you could see the different shades of the makeup hitting his face, and then there he is in full makeup. I didn't know what to think of that. I guess because it was unlike anything I'd seen before. Kind of like how my first reaction was of Heath Ledger wearing the makeup. I didn't know what to think of that when I first saw it, but it grew on me as I became more and more curious about the project, about the trailer. And then before you know it, I ended up loving it. With Heath Ledger's makeup and with Joaquin Phoenix's makeup for the Joker.
I'll say I wasn't crazy about not Heath. I actually loved Heath Ledger's makeup. Mm-hmm. I didn't care for Joaquin's.
You didn't care. Okay.
I actually preferred the one where he was in the subway when he made his first kill.
3 kills.
Yeah. I actually liked that. I thought the red nose took me out. The blue around the eyes didn't really bother me. Okay. But I also liked the outline of the lips that he had. Mm-hmm. It felt more Joker-like to me. Yeah. The only time I liked the final look of the makeup was when he first turns around in the elevator and before he goes down the stairs to go to the talk show. Okay. The way the lighting hit it, it looked like almost a skull kind of look, and the way his hair was slicked back, and the beautiful cinematography on him with the full coat, and the eyes are all blacked out, but yet you can still see him like raise a smile, even with the makeup already grinning, and you can see the muscles in the cheeks going up. Yeah. I like that, but when he was out in the light and you can see his eyes pop more, and that lighting effect isn't really there. It didn't do anything for me.
Okay. Another thing, what was drawn to me in this movie as I watched, I've seen it a couple times already. I saw it again, 2 nights ago to prepare for this. But there's always like sort of an iconic thing with the smile with the Joker, obviously. What was so different is that throughout the movie at times, like he's forcing himself to smile by putting his fingers in as he has that teardrop in the very beginning. As it sets the mood, you hear the background of this trash strike going on, which I'm glad you saw images of streets filled with garbage bags. This is playing into our mindset, and as it's just zooming in on him putting his clown makeup on, getting ready to go outside and promote a failing business to everything must go. Like, I've never seen anybody do that, like put their fingers inside their mouth to try and force a smile when he can't, as well as his tragic condition. He can't control his own laughter. In fact, it actually pains him to laugh because he can't control it. How has that never been explored in any Joker film or any comic? How is it that had not been done before? I loved it. It's sad, but the fact that it was never explored, maybe it was, Phoenix's exploration of the character where he has this condition where he can't control his own laughter. He has one of those cards that he has to give to people saying, please forgive me. I can't control my laughter. I want to stop, but I can't. And then you just get that one scene, he gets beat up by the kids and the sign is destroyed. I actually liked how in his outfit, you can see the rose on his outfit and it kind of squirts a little bit of water out. Like, that's kind of like a little nod to, Joker with having like the acid spitting out of his flower, but it's just water. I like that as it pans away, then you just get the big Joker imprint. And he's back in his psychiatrist office. He can't stop his laughter. And then you just get that first line. Is it me or is it getting crazier out there? It sets the tone for the movie going forward. How has that not been explored, though? The painful laugh. It's so unique and so different.
It's never been a condition for him before. I mean, he kind of does it in previous, Joker stories as that's just his thing. Like, he gets a kick out of killing you.
That, or he's just doing it to be overly obnoxious, like to prove a point. Like, if you look at some of the way the incarnations of Joker has been, he would, let's say he'll shoot somebody, and he laughs obnoxiously about it because that's who he is. It's not that it's a condition, it's the fact that that's just really how deranged the man is. This aspect of him is trying to put him into a light of, it's a real person. But truthfully, it's not who this is.
I do think his laugh has a build, though, because in the beginning, it's always treated like it's a condition, especially with psychiatrists, with him bombing on stage, doing the stand-up comedy routine, with him killing the 3 guys from Wall Street in the subway. But then as the movie progresses, he laughs because he wants to laugh, especially after he kills people. He does it on the Murray Show. He did it with Randall in the apartment. He just laughs because he thinks he told like a funny joke, and then he has that one joke where he delivers to Gary in the locker room scene. Do people call it, is it miniature golf to you or is it just golf to you? And then he laughs about it because he just wants to laugh. It's not because of his condition coming out, but because he's laughing to be obnoxious, or he's laughing to be, like I said, it has its own build. At first it's a condition, but then it just becomes his everyday laugh because he wants to laugh. I thought that was kind of powerful.
Well, it's the same thing with the smiling thing. Like, he's always trying, like, he's making himself try to smile, and he can't, because that sets the tone that he's unhappy.
Yeah.
And you find out why. I mean, there's, like, a tragedy that happened to his past that we don't know yet, that we find out later on. And then his goal is to make people smile, and he can't do it. He's failing as a clown. He's failing as a comedian, which I thought they should have gave him a little more of, instead of like a one-time thing and say, oh, he's a failed comedian, just because of one show. Yeah. Even though you
like one joke.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no one laughed at the one joke. Well, no shit, man.
He actually runs into a young Bruce Wayne at Wayne Manor, and he puts his he puts the smile on his face. And the only time when he actually does keep the smile on after he forces it is when he uses his own blood at the very end, mixed with the red lips, and it stays after all that chaos that he caused, and it's kind of like, oh yeah, I created all this chaos, and before it's like I wasn't ever recognized, and he even puts down in his journal, maybe my life will make sense after my death, which, if you pay attention to it, it's actually a really neat play on words, because he spells sense Cents.
I didn't notice that.
Like, like how the old saying is, "Oh, you ain't worth 2 cents." He says, my life will make sense after my death." It's a play on like the psyche term sense and the money term. I don't know if they did that intentionally, because you get the vibe that he's like poorly educated, probably a dropout.
Actually, it's showing his mental state. If you actually take notice, when he's writing the journal, when he's writing normally, he's right-handed. But when he starts having the mental breaks, it's left-handed.
Interesting.
Okay.
I didn't notice that.
When he fires the gun, it's left-handed.
Yes.
But it's not right-handed because it's not his normal mental state. Mm-hmm. So everything that happens when a break happens, it's his left side that takes over. So that's where everything starts showing, like, oh, this is what is the real side, or this is what is the mental state side.
I love that. I love when they do that.
That's really neat.
You can tell this guy definitely is in sync with the world, especially when he's in the comedy club. He's laughing at all the wrong beats. People think that's funny. He's like looking around, that wasn't very funny. But then the comedian says one line, he just cracks up laughing, and no one else is. He's just not with everybody else. Even with him trying to walk back into the hospital after he's getting interviewed by the cops about the subway murders, he walks into an exit-only sign. They're saying, it's exit only. And he's still trying to get in, and then somebody comes out, he goes in. He's just not with everybody.
He even has these imaginations where Robert De Niro plays, was it Murray Franklin? Or Franklin Murray?
Murray Franklin.
Murray Franklin, okay. He sees himself in this guy's talk show. Murray Franklin has this late night talk show, like a David Letterman, Conan O'Brien type thing. And Joaquin's Joker, his name's Arthur Fleck.
Yes.
Arthur idolizes this guy. And he imagines him in the crowd, and he yells out, "I love you, Murray." And Murray actually says, like, "Yo, shine a light on that guy. Let's talk to him. Let's bring him down. Let's interact." And then they cut a commercial break because Arthur had said, "I take care of my mom, and I love her, and this is what I got to do to be a good kid." And at first everybody laughs, and Murray's like, "Oh, wait, I had to live with my mom and be the man of my house because my dad left me. And so I had to take charge." And he says, "If I had a son like you, Arthur, I would be proud to be your father." And this is all in his head.
Yeah. It cuts right back to him in reality, sitting on the bed with his mom, just watching the show.
And his mom is off the walls herself. She's constantly sending letters to Thomas Wayne, who is Bruce Wayne's father, who's a successful, I don't know, would you call him a millionaire or billionaire at this point? Because I heard that it's supposed to take place in the 80s, but yet it really doesn't show that any signs of the 80s besides...
It has a little bit of grittiness, and the cars are pretty much like...
Technology, no one has any cell phones, nothing like that.
The look of the talk show, the way Murray dresses, and the desk and the chairs that they have are really like some of the only things I've seen that say, okay, this doesn't take place now.
Yeah.
But going off on the mom, you can tell something's not right with her either.
Right. She idolizes Thomas Wayne, just like he idolizes Murray Franklin.
Yeah, and we learned that she has worked for Thomas Wayne, was they say 30 years ago?
Something like that.
Which would have to make Arthur at least 30, who looks in fucking rough shape for a 30-year-old.
He looks like he's pushing 50.
He looks bad.
Uh-huh.
But I think that's also part of the point, is that he's been so mistreated growing up, or it's just such a rough time for him to grow up, that he's aged so much.
He's got bad habits. He's smoking constantly. He doesn't eat a sandwich. I mean, the guy looks anorexic.
And
because he has ribs.
Their apartment isn't the greatest either. I mean, it's not trash, but it's not a great apartment.
The neighborhood is trash, but...
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
I actually know somebody who lived in that section of New York where those stairs are.
The Bronx. I think it's in the Bronx.
And he said that that's really a scary section itself.
With the staircase.
Yes.
Wow. I know people are taking pictures of it on social media.
Fuck that.
I mean, I haven't seen, like, a staircase get more screen time or more referencing since the Exorcist staircase.
For real.
Seriously. Totally different locations, but still, everyone's like going down the staircase doing their Joker dance. But now you find out it's a really awful part of town.
And
I don't think I'll be there.
And those stairs are really steep too, from what I heard. So I don't need 3 strikes. Two's enough.
Right. He's constantly making that trip up the stairs to go to his apartment. Like he's hunched over. He has like no confidence in himself.
Which is also, if you look at it, every time he's going up the stairs, it's always bad. It's a struggle. He's tired. He's like forcing himself to go up, and we're always told about the climbing the mountain, and but his joy is when he descends. It's that descending into madness. He's descending down the stairs, and that's when he's doing the Joker dance, and he's all into the character now. I thought that was a great play on Psyche.
I did have one issue with that. I didn't like, at first, the song choice was a little out of place for me.
Oh, Gary Glitter?
Yeah. That didn't really felt like it belonged in them. It's grown on me, but still, when I first saw him, like, could you maybe like do something orchestral or a different song? Not that. I'm kind of taken out of this. I feel like I was like at a basketball pep rally. Yeah! I don't know. It didn't work for me when I first saw it. That was like one out of place song choice that I wish would have been done differently.
Well, it is synonymous with sports rally.
I know, but this isn't a sports event that we're watching.
Yeah, exactly. So it is, yeah, I can definitely see how that would take you out of the psyche of the scene and just be like, wait a minute. But in some ways, it does kind of work because it's almost like, do you root for him? Or, because he is almost overcoming a serious tragedy that you feel for him.
Yeah. At that point, he's already suffocated his mom. He killed Randall and in his apartment. He killed those 3 Wall Street guys. At this point, you don't... Like, dude, you're going down the wrong way, man. Don't do this.
Because you find out Randall pretty much got him fired. He said, here's a gun to protect yourself after the kids beat him up at the beginning of the movie. Mm-hmm. And he said, if you don't protect yourself, they're just going to keep on walking all over you. And he does another clown show.
At a kid's hospital.
And the gun drops. And then he tries to say it's a prop. But his boss says... No, it's not a prop.
That's bullshit. You're fired.
Which also, by the way, I just wanted to point out because it's some interesting trivia, and we did mention Ninja Turtles. His boss, I believe the clown agency was called Ha-Ha's.
Yes.
Is played by, I might butcher his last name because it's spelled P-A-I-S. His name's Josh Page, I believe. He played Raphael in the first Ninja Turtles movie.
That's awesome.
Dude. Did you do that on purpose, bringing up Ninja Turtles for that? Or...
It's coming full circle.
Dude, that's almost as bad as the whole Die Hard one last episode. Come on.
This is what makes movies fun, Jeff.
I know.
Oh, man.
Because actors can play more than one part.
Yeah.
They can.
Oh, that scene. Every time I see that, I cringe. I lock up because what if that gun had gone off and shot a kid?
Oh, yeah.
It's so... Oh, my God. Just I can't even. But in the next scene where he's in the phone booth talking to his boss, like, you know, what you were saying, it's a prop. We hear the talk about the super rats that are in the city and all the trash. We see the trash. I kept looking for a damn rat, and I finally saw one 2 days ago. It's when you get that wide shot of him in the phone booth, and then there's just this big rat that's the size of a cat creeping around the corner going off camera like, there's a rat! There's one right there.
I think there's another one towards the end of the movie when the Waynes are coming out of the theater.
Is there?
Yeah.
Okay, I missed that
I think there's
one.
3 in total, but there's 2. I can't remember where the third one's at. It might be towards the beginning of the movie.
Maybe
Are they
it is.
supposed to have any significance?
No.
Well, I think there is a significant thing about it, but I'll get to that later on.
Okay.
But I tried to look for the damn rats, the super rats, and I finally saw one 2 nights ago. I'm like, there's one! There he is! It was like a little Easter egg, kind of.
You talked about the phone booth, and after the firing, he smashes his head up against the glass of the booth. At the beginning of the movie, when he's talking to a psychiatrist, they say very briefly, and it never gets explored throughout the rest of the movie, is that he spent some time in a psychiatric hospital.
Yes.
And the only time that you see him in the hospital as a flashback, and he's just banging his head on the door, and that was it. You know, we just know that he spent some time in there. We don't know why. We don't know what caused it, but he's on several different meds, and then you find out later on that the psychiatrist tells him they're cutting the funding, and he has no access to his medication, and he even had said early on, could the doctor up my dose because I just don't want to be not happy. So now they're taking everything away.
That's another
from
issue
him.
this movie raises. Like,
Don't cut funding for this type of thing because you're going to have negative consequences. And like she said, they don't give a shit about people like you or me. And it also, something I didn't notice before, but he has the line saying, "You don't listen, do you?" She really doesn't listen.
No.
She doesn't listen at all. She's just basically like being the politician and just saying everything that he thinks he wants to hear, runs the same questions over and over again. Like, are you actually trying to help people? Are you just running through a checklist because that's what your job tells you to do? But she doesn't listen.
Well, that's kind of an underlining theme is nobody listens. You know, you find out she's not listening to him. His mom never listens to him. Anything he says, she just, Thomas Wayne's going to help us. Thomas Wayne's going to help us. No.
right.
But then once he kills those 3 Wall Street guys and then he starts seeing this movement begin, Thomas Wayne is kind of saying the wrong things on camera, calling Gotham City and its residents a bunch of clowns. I mean, wouldn't that piss you off if some guy was running for mayor and he called you a clown and, you know, with your friends and family living in the city? Not all of us share your same feeling, buddy. And, you know, that would probably anger a lot of people. That's why we got the mob scene outside of the movie theater when all these rich stuffed shirts are watching a Charlie Chaplin movie. As there's a riot going on saying, "Oh, you think we're clowns? You think we're clowns? Fuck you, man. What makes you so high and mighty because you were given a silver spoon? Do you ever think that you know what it's like to be us? You don't. Because you make all the money. We're not all clowns. We're not as bad as you say we are, but maybe we should just act like clowns because you say we are on TV."
And it was that scene where Arthur goes to confront Thomas Wayne because he finds out in the letters that his mom is sending to him that she says that Arthur is his son.
Yeah.
And he was so taken back by it. I mean, I would be too. You're living in hazardous conditions. You're being mistreated. Life is just going badly. You're being accused of things that you're really not doing. Like, should he have brought a gun to a children's hospital? Absolutely not. But still, you know, that was given to him by a coworker, and then the coworker denied and said, "Oh, I didn't give him that
He's
gun."
trying to cover it up, and it's more and more prevalent as the scenes go on because he keeps mentioning the cops were at my place asking about those murders. I just want to make sure you didn't tell anybody anything. Like, yeah, he's denying everything.
And when Arthur confronts Thomas Wayne, that's when Thomas Wayne drops the bomb on him and says, "Listen, I'm not your father, and your mom, she's got mental health issues. She was committed to a hospital. You were adopted." And he has his breakout condition, and Thomas doesn't know how to handle it. He doesn't even have his card to hand to him. And Thomas Wayne actually punches him, and he even says, "You come near my son again, I'm going to fucking kill you."
I would too.
I
yeah.
would too, absolutely.
He kind of skipped ahead. He went to the Wayne Manor to see him first, and then does the whole theater. And the most
Right,
awkward
yeah.
scene in the bathroom where all he wanted was a hug. He gets punched in the fucking face.
Yep, exactly. He starts laughing, and of course, no one understands his condition. Even the cops were like, "Yo, this condition that you say you have, is that part of your act too? With this prop gun, is that real? Is that a real thing?" He just goes, "What do you think? You don't know what I go through. You don't know my condition. You weren't smashed in the head several times as a kid, as it's mentioned in the report that boyfriends took turns beating him up as they beat her up."
He didn't know that at the time.
He
though.
didn't know that at the time, right?
And that's probably the most tragic scene is when he finds out about that. He actually goes to the hospital where his mom was kept, asks for the records, and he even kind of hints to the guy at the record counter, like, "I did something really bad. I fucked up."
Oh, yeah? Like what?
Yeah, and he doesn't tell him, and then he says, "So Penny Fleck's your mother?" "Yeah." And he goes, "I can't give you these," and he like basically steals the records from him.
Bangs his head against the wall and takes the book.
Well, yeah, it scares him enough that the guy go, oh, let's go to the file, and fucking books it.
I wonder how many people who wrote articles about the movie before it was even released, I wonder how silly or stupid they felt when they thought that Arthur Fleck was the half-brother to Bruce Wayne. I know when that article came out, that was going to piss a lot of people off thinking, is this guy really now related to Batman? Come on, give me a break, man.
Actually, there's still enough out there. He technically could be. Thomas Wayne was a womanizer in several of the comics.
Yeah, he was.
So there's been times where Bruce Wayne was out with his dad and he was with another woman. It wasn't Martha. There's multiple things here that they could have used. And this might be one. He could be related. And first of all, we don't even know if this is actually the Joker.
We don't.
Because I'll get to that when we get towards the end of this movie.
We can, yeah.
There's a big thing at the end of the movie that leads us to believe that they Patrick Bateman us, and this might have never happened.
I'm glad that you mentioned Patrick Bateman because now I can see why like some people like maybe because I had the same thing with American Psycho. When I first saw that movie, I flat out hated it. I didn't know whether to call this a horror movie or a comedy or whatever. I thought it was trash. But then I gave it multiple viewings and I said, you know, maybe I was looking at it the wrong way, looking it through the wrong lens, and now I absolutely love the movie. So, you know, things could be said with movies like Blade Runner when you first see it, like, what is this? And then as you watch the other cuts, you realize this movie's brilliant. The same thing with American Psycho, and then I'll get into this later about the controversy because this is a movie that was shrouded with controversy, and sometimes controversy sells. Look at movies like The Passion of the Christ. That pissed a lot of people off and it made a lot of money, and sometimes it backfires with movies like Silent Night, Deadly Night, where people thought that there was just a psychotic Santa Claus, and kids were all this time they were going to be visited by a psychotic guy with an axe going down their chimney, murdering them instead of leaving presents. And that had a negative effect on the box office. But this is one of those cases where people think, you know, controversy sells, sometimes it doesn't. But that's something that
controversy was unnecessary.
I thought it was dumb. I really thought it was
What,
dumb.
the one for Silent Night, Deadly Night? Or the dude screaming punish?
That was dumb, too. Oh, I love that movie. I love the sequel even more, as everybody should.
Yeah, but when they were crying about the violence in Joker, I've heard so many reviews where they said that there was a Rambo movie that came out. They said that Rambo movie was way more violent than Joker.
This is what, Joker killed 8 people that we saw on screen and probably several more off screen. The violence isn't even bad. Like, I watch horror movies all the time. I've seen worse.
The people just freaked out because I guess they felt the violence was real because it did feel real. Like the sound effects of the gunshots going off and the kills and the blood splatter effects. It wasn't like Deadpool 1 and 2 violence where he's chopping a guy's head off with a katana and then kicks it at a bunch of people. Those movies are way more violent than this. Deadpool 1 and 2, Logan, Natural Born Killers, American Psycho, every film ever directed by Lars von Trier. Give me a break.
But even if it did look the most real, I don't understand why, because that's a movie's job. Like, that's this movie's job. And what do they expect from this character? That's what he does. He kills people.
He's a mass murderer. What was he going to do? Tickle people to death or use laughing gas on his victims?
Fuck right, dude. I want to see a fish with a smile. Fucking give it to me.
Did you want to see him tickle people to death?
Fuck it, dude. I want to see a pie with a bomb in it. I don't care.
That's why it's an origin story, Jeff. And it's the same thing. Todd Phillips was asked the question, making this movie, how can you tell an origin story for a character that has no origin? And that's kind of why this movie, I think, is the best iteration it could be, because you're shown things that are real and you're shown things that are not real. That's the only way to really tell this story.
Zazie Beetz' character.
Zazie Beetz' character.
Honestly, like, I didn't think she needed to be in the fucking movie.
No,
as I'm listening to you guys talk, my brain's going, listen, this is why I'm hating on this movie, because they've added a lot of unnecessary shit. Like, he talked about it earlier, all the Gotham shit. Like, truthfully, like, Zazie Beetz, as beautiful as that woman is, she was unnecessary. Like, it showed his mental state. Yes, he got obsessive. He followed her around. But then all of a sudden, like...
But did he follow her around?
Oh, that I believe. The whole sex scene is what I was about to get into. Was all imagined. The whole relationship was imagined.
That took me aback when I first saw it.
I'd say his mental state. She smiled or gave him a weird fucking look in the elevator because the way he fucking looks. It literally showed like what he was going through. Like, yes, he thought this woman was gorgeous, but yet he's willing enough to fucking stalk her. But his brain's like, oh, she'll love me because I'm stalking her. That's how stalkers work. Yeah. They like, oh, if I fucking follow her long enough, she'll love me. No, dude, that was not the case.
And then all those scenes that you see with her at the comedy show, at the hospital, you find out that they weren't real.
It was all in his head.
I didn't get it at first until I rewatched it again and I heard other people talk about it and I said, oh yeah. I felt like they didn't transition that well to me. Because
it seemed more like it was flashes. You saw everything was playing out and then all of a sudden it was just like, oh, they're just flashes now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Or you know how the way people are, how they just ghost on you. I thought maybe she thought this is way too much. I got to worry about my kid more. You know, forget this guy. And then it, you know, like I think Nightmare on Elm Street always did good transitions when like the kids would blink their eyes. You knew then they were getting ready to go into a dream and that this wasn't the same thing. With him and what's her name? Sophie.
Yeah, so character's name is Sophie.
With Arthur and Sophie together, there was never really a hint of any sort of mental.
I think that was the point, though. Like, you weren't supposed to tell what was reality and what was fictional in his brain because he thought it was all real.
Yeah.
And that's why there was no transition. There wasn't. The only time I picked up on it after watching it the first time was when he's watching the news on the TV outside, and all of a sudden she's, like, hugging him, and then the next instant he comes back to reality, and she's gone. And my brain's like, oh, shit, did that actually happen? And it wasn't like that. It was like, oh, like, yeah, cool, I could see everything playing out. But I'm like, it didn't, like, to me, there was still something missing. Like, it wasn't until that moment I was like, oh, shit, it wasn't real.
And I didn't feel any, like, love connection from him. So I was kind of like, why?
It was pure sexuality.
That's
like,
why it was a fantasy.
He was infatuated with her. And that was it.
Now, I think all of that does play in one of the most powerful lines in the movie. And this is after, you know, she walks into the living room and she gasps and she says, you're that Arthur Fleck guy. What are you doing in my apartment? And then you're like, oh my God, he made the whole thing up. And then some people believe that when he puts the finger gun to his head looking at her, that he walks out of the apartment, you can hear faint sirens in the background. Did he just kill her? Some people have been thinking, did he actually just murder her in that moment? Or maybe it's just police sirens going off to fix a crime. And then he goes back to visit his mom in the hospital, who just had a stroke from the interview from the cops, and she started panicking, and then she went into a catatonic state. He sits in the chair, and this is after he read the reports that he is actually adopted. He has that one great line that I truly believe, and I'll never forget.
Well,
he says,
you can't just say he was just adopted. He was adopted and he was abused.
Right.
Mentally, physically. It's probably one reason why, you know, he's so malnourished, because that's all he knows is growing up is to just survive. Mm-hmm. You know, which is another reason why he looks like crap. Yeah. And you find out that she is mentally unstable herself. Like you knew it, because she's already portrayed like that. But it also goes to show how manipulative she was to him, that I can still have this kid take care of me, even though it's not really my kid, but I'll let him know that I'm your mother. I treat you well. Remember, you got to take care of me as I get older and I can't do it myself. And if you can't, Thomas Wayne will fix everything for us. Yeah. And she's even harsh to him. When he says about the stand-up comedy thing, you know, he's like, my career's going to take off. We're going to get out of here. And she goes, well, don't you have to be funny to be a stand-up comedian?
I know. She's very terrible to him. They had like this Norman Bates thing with the baths being happening. Like he's bathing her and then they're dancing and things like that. Yeah, she is harsh to him. And then him just like sitting in her room in the hospital, smoking that cigarette. I used to think that my laugh was a condition, but there was something more to it. And he goes, you know what? I've never been happy for 1 minute in my entire goddamn fucking life. When he said that, I believed him. He's never been happy once in his life.
The smile.
I used to think that my life was a tragedy. Now it's a fucking comedy, and just fucking suffocates her with a pillow.
But honestly, what that woman has put him through, she got what she fucking deserved.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't feel sorry for her at that moment.
I love the fact he did it all nonchalantly. Like, oh, yeah, I'm going to go do this now. pillow over the face.
Over the face.
Like,
Suffocate the
like,
shit out of you.
and it was like you'd see, like he really didn't actually like show any emotion. Like he was upset, but it's like he knew that this is what needed to be done.
There was also another neat little comic book origin tidbit in there. Was when he says Penny Fleck. I always hated that name. It kind of goes, and him being adopted, it kind of goes back to that origin that he doesn't have a real name. We know him as Arthur Fleck in this, but he doesn't have...
I'd say, honestly, I probably brought it up in probably one of the other episodes. Like, it was more recently that they decided to give Joker a real origin story. It was in one of the Justice League. They wanted to tell who Joker really was. So Batman actually sits, and it's called the Chair of Knowledge. It has everything. It shows past, present, future. He actually asked the chair who the Joker was. The first time, I was totally against this to fucking even read it, but then my interest got me. It's 3 separate people. So that's the one thing I was like thinking about with this movie. It's 3 separate people, 3 different generations of Joker. So the original one, which technically could be this one, influenced the other one, and so on and so forth. So, like, we have our Cesar Romero. I think they even called him something close to that. He looks like the 60s. Then you've got the 80s to 90s, which is Jack Napier. And then you've got the more current one, which literally cut his own fucking face off. And it's like each of them had their own name, own origin story. But they don't give the Joker himself an actual origin. Like, literally. It's not just one person anymore. It's been multiple over fucking, 80 years? Yeah, it has been 80 years. Holy shit.
Yeah.
That's how the name and the legacy lives on, because you can't see a Joker in his 90s committing crime. The guy would laugh himself to death.
Because that would make sense on of a time frame. Because, like, honestly, like, he's almost 40, and Bruce is fucking 12?
Yeah.
So Bruce doesn't become Batman for another 20 years. That puts him in his fucking 70s. You really think this Joker is going to be fighting Batman on a rooftop and going, really going to punch a guy with glasses? Fuck no, man.
With a cane?
Yeah. Like, I got a walker. It doesn't make sense. So it's like, yes, this whole concept of Joker being a starting point, yes, he could have influenced another person, and so on and so forth. That's one thing I hate about this movie.
Oh, there go my dentures. Sorry, It's not a wound-up toy.
Yes, I just wound up my hand.
But wrapping up the movie here, after he kills his mom, he goes back to his apartment, and he gets a phone call. He gets a phone call from the Franklin Murray show.
Murray Franklin.
Whatever, it's fucking De Niro, right? The Johnny Carson De Niro, leave it alone.
Johnny Carson De Niro.
They want to bring Arthur on the show because they had seen his failed stand-up comedy act, and they actually played it on the show and made fun of him because he has that line. Arthur has the line where he says, well, no one's laughing at me now, and Murray says, yeah, you can say that again. Yeah. Check out this Joker.
I know, they've been like
saying,
yeah.
This guy thinks that if you just keep laughing, it'll somehow make you funny. He doesn't get it, and then, he's doing, like, the whole hand puppet thing, which he does occasionally. Someday you'll have to work for a living. You should have listened to your mother. And it's heartbreaking in that scene because he's so crushed. Yeah.
He's really trying. It's not like he had any proper training that we know of, but this is something that his heart's really into. Mm-hmm. Just like how he really genuinely wanted to make people happy. Like when he's with the kids, you actually see the kids laughing and smiling, and it's one of the only times where it does look like he's having a good time. And he even says, this is the only job I ever loved, right as he's getting fired. And that messes with you.
Absolutely.
It seems like it was his only job, because even when they had the flashback in the mental hospital, he was an older gentleman. And it's like, it might have been his only job.
I think it was.
Because, like, he's got to pay for his pills somehow.
Yeah.
I don't think the state was going to cover that.
No.
Well, they cut the funding.
But he takes the invite, and he actually practices his intros and how he's going to come onto the show.
And throughout that whole concept, as he's doing his intros, he kept pointing the finger at his head like it's a gun, like under the neck, sometimes the side of the head. And it's like, through this whole thing, you're like, he's going to fucking blow his brains out in the middle of a live showing.
Right.
And it's like, he kept going with it. And I'm like, well, fuck. And then all of a sudden it starts transitioning from his own head and just pointing it off to the side. I'm like, wait, what?
I remember that trailer when we first saw the image of Robert De Niro coming out like Johnny Carson. I'm like, is this going to be the Dark Knight Returns scene where he's going to murder the guy and then kill everybody in the audience? Is this what we're going to see? That's what I first thought, but like, you know what? Don't get your hopes up because it's probably not going to be like that. The only thing that I can see that's remnant of the comic books was in The Killing Joke where he was a failed stand-up comedian. That's the only thing that we kind of had like to go with, and they just kind of came up with their own story after that. But I think, was it like after he's practicing, that's when he gets the visit from Randall and Gary with the champagne bottle, and then he starts putting the makeup on. Oh, hey guys. When he first said that, I'm like, someone's going to die.
I did like that he killed Randall and then he let Gary live.
I like that too.
Because
yeah. Honestly, that was actually like probably one of the better scenes in the movie. Because like, as messed up as it sounds, I don't know how to do this politically correct. The man has dwarfism. And after he kills the Randall, the guy's running over the door, can't reach the slide lock, and he's jumping.
Oh, yeah.
I can't tell if he actually did that for a joke or he genuinely didn't think he could reach the latch.
And so, like, Arthur walks over and goes, unlocks the door, and he's like, oh, I'm not going to kill you, and just lets him out. Like, I was like, is he going to kill him right now? No, literally lets the dude right out. He literally just wanted to kill Randall for ratting him out.
Kisses him on the forehead. Okay, get out.
yeah, he said, you're always nice to me, Gary.
He even, like, attempts to do, like, a British accent. On the telly. Can you believe that? What? What'd you say? And, like because he's looking at him like, okay, he's going to creep around the body. Like, is he actually going to kill him? Ah! Scares him.
I liked it when they both came in and they saw him. He doesn't have the red around the lips. It's just all white-faced and green hair. And they think because ever since the kids were killed on the subway, there's been this political movement. And like you say with Thomas Wayne calling everybody clowns, and you hear a clown is the one who killed these yuppie kids that look like they were actually going to attempt possible rape on a woman.
Maybe they could have.
But you can tell that those three were guilty of something.
Oh, yeah. They were, spoiled brats.
Rich snobs, right.
Scumbags is the best way to explain that.
Guys like throwing fries at the poor woman.
And they're just like joking at her constantly.
And out of nowhere, they just go and beat up Arthur.
Oh, yeah. Because he just starts laughing, and they don't get it. They start playing the song from A Little Night Music, Send in the Clowns.
He tries to give them the card, and they just throw it away like, we don't care.
Right.
And we'll just beat the shit out of you because we can. We're rich, we get away with it.
He accidentally shoots the first one. Because it's like he's trying to get the gun out just to scare him, and then it like literally pulls the trigger and shoots the first one.
At first I didn't know, like, because it looked like the one guy was shot 3 times, but then I slowed it down, like, oh, he was shot in the head. The first guy was killed in the head, and the other guy got 2 rounds to the chest. The third guy, I think, got shot in the ass. I thought he got shot in the ankle, but like, no, he's holding his butt. He got shot in the ass. And then people think he's firing way too many bullets to kill this guy because a revolver typically has 6 rounds in it. But then in the bag, the gun was probably already loaded with extra ammunition. So I'm led to believe that he probably just reloaded the gun again during the subway scene as they're trying to get to the next destination. He probably reloaded it.
Yeah, probably as he's walking out after killing the other 2, he might have just started reloading.
Right.
He even has a moment where he looks around, tries to point somebody else. He actually points the gun to his head at one point, like, should I just off myself right now? He does that occasionally. Should I just kill myself right now? No. I got to think straight. I got to kill this guy right now. Should I just end it? No.
I think he just generally wanted to die after a while, like, because he kept making that reference of shooting himself in the head, and I'm like, I think he just generally wants to die.
But then he starts dancing in the bathroom, and you can tell he liked what he did. He's actually starting to find balance and purpose in his life, and then it leads to people actually dressing up like clowns in the streets. People are starting to notice. I didn't think I ever really existed, but I do because of this movement that's happening right now. I actually feel like I'm starting to have purpose in a very sick and destructive way.
And when Randall and Gary see him with the painted face because he's getting ready to go on the talk show like that, there's is it a protest? There's something going on.
It's a protest. The riots lead to a riot. Yeah.
People have the clown masks on, and that's how he paints his face as the signature clown face that they have. And one of the first things they say to him is, are you going to the protest? And he goes, no, my mom died. I'm celebrating.
He has his arms stretched out, and then he just like looks up at Randall as he's talking. That's like one of the most iconic Joker moments in the movie Joker. You just like see this
something uneasy.
Uneasy. Yeah, it looks like you're
spider
looking at his soul right now with that head raised. Yeah, of course. Stab, kill. Oh man.
And when you got a pale white face that's just, nothing there,
Right.
That's creepy enough.
The staircase scene, and the cops, they absolutely know for a fact they killed his mother. We want to ask you some questions that leads to that great chase sequence. He gets hit by the car. He goes on the train with the other people dressed up, and then it just takes one shot to blow everything out of proportion. The cops get savagely beaten, and Arthur takes the mask off from one of the guys, starts dancing, throws it away. Cops are trying to break up the fight, and then he's already in the Murray Franklin show. He's already made it there. The cops the news reporter saying 2 guys are in critical condition, and it's just getting worse and worse out there.
And that's when Murray comes over and with his, I guess, it's the stage manager?
I think the stage manager.
Production assistant.
Right.
And they talk about maybe you should take the makeup off, and Murray says, no, that's all right, let him keep it on.
Right.
Just you watch your language, and they go through a rundown of things you can and can't do on TV. And then that's when Arthur says, I got one more request. Do you mind if when you introduce me, can you introduce me as Joker? And they're like, yeah, sure.
Okay, sure.
So as they're getting ready to bring him on, you can tell it's already playing through his head.
He has the gun to his underside of his chin too as he's getting ready. They really didn't have a lot of security checks back then. I mean, it was the I guess it was assuming it was the 80s, but they really didn't check to see if you brought any kind of weapons of any kind into a live studio, because he clearly got away with it. He brought a gun into an actual studio.
Who knows? Maybe they cut the funding for security too.
Maybe they did.
Now, I really think that in that moment where he's backstage with the light, with the blue and the red and the colors in the background, as he's smoking that cigarette, just staring down at the footage of Murray talking to the other people that are on set, he's also making fun of Arthur at that time. You could tell, I was going to do it this way, but now I'm starting to think I'm going to do it another way. I think I'm going to take this guy out instead. And it also led me to believe, is Murray really like this? Does he really get a kick out of making fun of people, or is he just doing this to up his image? Is he just trying to because he has a reputation of trying to be like a Conan O'Brien or Johnny Carson, just making little jabs, little quiet joke jabs about people, but was he really making fun of him, or was he just trying to up his image?
That's hard because that's a comedian shtick.
It is a comedian shtick, and of course Arthur takes it the wrong way.
Murray doesn't know what he actually is going through. So, look, we do it now when we see stupid videos on YouTube and we laugh at them and people think they're doing really cool stuff, but really they just make themselves look stupid. But, how many people are mentally ill and distraught the way Arthur was?
Yeah.
And, hell, Tosh.0, is basically what Murray was doing.
The king of it, except this was internet videos.
Yeah.
And like you said, Arthur took it the wrong way, but yet at the same time, he probably shouldn't have done that to him if he didn't know the guy's background.
Went overboard with it, because replaying the footage over and over again, that doesn't help anything. He comes out on stage dancing. He becomes more Joker than he's ever had before. He kisses the one doctor. I'm like, if he's going to go out, he's going to go out with the best time of his life. He's going all out, and he gets his joke book out. The joke book actually kind of reminded me of the American Psycho Journal.
Yeah.
Where he was writing all those really disturbing images and of pictures of people getting mutilated and just writing all over it.
Well, it didn't just have his jokes, but it had his thoughts in it as well.
Right. And it just, he's bombing, but he doesn't see it that way. He tells the one the awful knock joke, and even the trumpeter goes, wah, wah. Fail.
He admits that he killed the kids in the subway and that he's got a problem with Thomas Wayne because he doesn't really help anybody out. And then that's when he admits, and it's true. He says, you care about these 3 pieces of shit, but here I am, somebody who's struggling, It causes nobody any harm, and if I died today, you'd just step right over me and wouldn't care.
Exactly.
And you know what? That speaks volumes, especially in today's society, because it is, we praise people who are, iconic, even if they're bad. It's like when Charles Manson died, they made such a big deal out of Charles Manson dying, and it was like, no, you guys just say he's dead. Don't give him any more than what he needed.
Don't give him the praise or the recognition. Yeah.
It's people like that, and then celebrities who have either like raped others or just caused harm to that was absolutely right, and that was spot on.
Mm-hmm. It raises a lot of questions. Do you know what it's like out there, Murray? Have you ever actually left the studio? Actually, when I saw the movie afterwards, I actually tried to think, what if I was homeless? What if I had nothing? I can't do it because I've never been homeless before, but it makes you think about these questions. It's thought-provoking. Do you know what it's like to be somebody who is worse off than you are? It's the class system, the lower class, the upper class. I mean, it's sprinkled throughout the entire movie.
Do those rich people actually go out of their way and help anybody? No, I'll just write a paycheck to a charity and say, oh, look what I did. Aren't I great? And it's like, all right, but what did you actually do? Because, charities, they still take that money and pocket it themselves. I mean, there's been lifelong debates about how comes we don't have a cure for AIDS. How comes cancer isn't cured with the millions of dollars that get pumped in to funding every year. But yet all somebody has to do is say, oh, I wrote a paycheck and look what happens. And oh, you're great, but did you really do anything?
Yeah.
It also reminds me of, especially because Arthur's got mental health issues, and going back to the psychiatrist where he says, you didn't listen. Do you remember Columbine was a serious tragedy.
Absolutely.
But the kids, they said, were fans of Marilyn Manson. Mm-hmm. And media and other people had reached out to Marilyn Manson about how do you feel influencing these kids, and if you had a chance of, saying anything to them, what would you do? And he said probably one of the smartest things I have heard anybody say. Say what you will about Marilyn Manson, but he was 100% on this.
He carries himself well.
He said, I wouldn't have said anything. I would have listened. And that's exactly what the problem was with these kids. Nobody listened. And Arthur even said that to the psychiatrist. He said, you don't listen. We live in a society where if you have a problem, somebody has to one-up you and say, well, my day was shit even more. Even though it could be totally fabricated, it's just because somebody has to one-up you. Yeah. Or they say, well, fuck your problems. They're going to happen because they happen to us all. They especially happen to me. So I don't care about how you fix it. You got a problem, deal with it. That's just the way it is. And it's like, this movie's actually bringing that to life.
It really is. No, it really is. And, he talks about the awful people, and he even says, you're awful, Murray, for playing my video, inviting me on the show just for a joke. I feel like the reason why I'm here right now is because of a joke, for you to rip on me. And, of course, he has the line saying, you don't know the first thing about me. We only know a little bit about Murray Franklin. We know a little bit about some of his history, not much. And then there are riots out there, and you're laughing right now. I know, because you think, because of society, it's subjective. Comedy's subjective, just very much like film is subjective. You people all decide what's funny and what isn't. So he thinks it's funny, and of course everyone else doesn't think so. And then you all know it's coming just because the music is building and building. How about another joke, Murray? I think we have enough. This joke though is Joker though. What do you get when you cross a mentally ill loner with a society that abandons him and treats him like trash? You get what you fucking deserve. Boom. Oh my god. I just get chills every time the audience is leaving. They're freaking out, and you see Murray's dead body just lifeless, the blood sprinkling down his head. He shoots him again too.
Yeah, he does.
He shoots him again.
And everybody's gone. Just
He grabs the camera, just says good night. And just remember, that's...
Cut.
That panning away from the other television screens kind of reminded me of another movie, Romeo and Juliet, how it began, how it ended. It pans away from multiple televisions, or maybe it was just one television, as a news broadcast is playing, kind of telling us what's happening, what's going on. It gives you kind of a taste of what's going on in the city, and then just ends with Gotham City's burning. And then you just see the squad car taking him away. You see the fires. You see the chaos. You see the tear gas bombs. You see people holding bats, beating people up.
And he's loving it.
He's loving it.
He's in the back of the cop car smiling, and then the cop's saying, "You started all of this from tonight." And he said, "Yeah, isn't it beautiful?"
I know. And then the ambulance crashes into the squad car. Now, people have believed that in that moment, that's when the Joker died and everything else is fake. I don't like that. I like to think that what happened was real, not that he actually was killed in that moment and everything else is kind of like the afterlife. I didn't like that theory because I really believe that what we're seeing right now is real. And then the people, it was carjacked, the ambulance. They bring him out, they put him in the squad car, and he just stands. The music is building and building. I get like tingles down my spine. He has that blood smile. It's like the Rat King has become king of the rats, and everybody else below are the super rats, and they're just praising him. For the first time, he feels purpose in his entire life in the worst way, but he's now visible. He's now being seen by everybody. People are now paying attention to him. He is their Rat King. And then, of course, we get very little bit. We didn't need to see this, though, but the Wayne family being killed in the alleyway. Hey, Wayne, you get what you fucking deserve. Boom, boom. And then the pearls get ripped off. At least it only lasted a couple seconds. It wasn't like I'm like, when I saw Batman v Superman, did we really have to see it again in slow motion? I know it was like the comics, but we've seen this so many times. Did we have to see it? At least it was only like maybe 10 seconds. The Waynes leave the movie theater, they get shot, and that's it. And then because the focus is on Joker, and then of course it just fades to black, and then you see him in the mental hospital smoking a cigarette. I just was thinking of a joke. Can you tell it to me? Oh, you wouldn't get it. It's just the Wayne family dead with a young Bruce looking at him. That's life. That's life.
But you forgot, we see him walking out, and you see these bloody footprints.
Yeah. You can't tell if she's dead or if she's seriously hurt. I don't know. It's led to believe. But then we get like this Tom and Jerry scene as they're running back and forth. The security guys are chasing him. Like, this is all for a joke. And then just get the end credits.
And that's Joker.
That's Joker. Send in the clowns. Now, I really hope that they don't do a sequel. I would hate a sequel for this because I think it should just be one movie, and it even says the end. I think they were really hoping that this would just be one and done. And that's kind of why Phoenix signed on to it, because he didn't want a multiple deal. He was going to be Doctor Strange, but he didn't want the multiple movies it was going to come with. So he's like, no, fuck that. I want to just do one movie and be done. Good for him. Good for him.
Yeah.
Not giving into the agenda that you have to do multiple movies. He's an artist. Say whatever you want about him, because a lot of people have. I just respect him as an artist. As an actor on screen, I tune out what he says, like in his speeches. I just want to see what he can do on camera. That's it.
And that's fine.
That's fine.
I mean, we should know by now to respect talent and know that the person behind the talent may not be what you want to idolize. Like, idolize the admiration for what they go through for the severe lengths, but they could be such a shitty person that it's like, I don't want to be like that. Mm-hmm. I mean, we've all noticed people like that before, and we've seen extreme talents that is highly admirable, and then you just go, wow, this person though is just such a piece of shit that you kind of hate liking what they do because they're just such a bad person.
You do feel bad for him just because he's been beat up by kids, he's been bullied, he's been traumatized, but he's just going down the wrong path. And I think that's a trip.
Joaquin
Phoenix.
Was he?
What?
No. In real life?
No.
Oh,
I'm just talking about his character in the movie. Like, I mean, you don't want him to go down this path, but you feel sorry for him. But
the character.
Yeah. Not talking about. I don't think he went through this in real life. No, I don't think he did.
Well, no. I mean, there was some stuff that hit home with me personally, because watching the movie at one point, I remember there were times where I had some issues growing up, and whenever I tried to tell people stuff, it was just kind of like, it is what it is. And it's like, no, you guys aren't listening to me. And I actually almost left the theater. I've never almost left the theater ever until this movie. But I said, you know what? Just remember it's a movie. Just watch the rest of the movie. And I did, and it was fine. I didn't have like PTSD flashbacks or nothing, but I just remember I felt for him because, when you're a kid, and especially a kid, and you're getting abused and you look up to adults for help and your parents, yet nobody's listening and you're so dependent on them, that's heartbreaking. And you guys already know, I have such a serious disdain for kid abuse. It's like I have no sympathy whatsoever for anybody who says, I'm sorry for abusing kids. No, you're a waste of life to me. If you even ever think about harming a kid and just thinking it's okay because they're vulnerable, no, you're a piece of shit.
Yeah.
There's no reason or excuse for stuff. I mean,
I get it.
There's a difference between discipline and abuse. And I think some people forget that. Well, a lot of people, I think, forget that.
I agree with that.
There's always some excuse, and that to me, no. There's no excuse.
Yeah, this movie was not worth the controversy. I really didn't think. I mean, no one is forcing anyone to watch this movie. Nobody was forcing anybody, even when it came out in theaters in October. If you didn't want to see it, you don't have to see it. You just don't. I really enjoy this movie because it's a great dark character study that is well filmed and well made, well acted, well written. The music I will always remember.
Are you just gonna suck all their dicks? What the fuck, man? Are you like literally just gonna drop your knees and go, oh, come on? You say all these great things about this fucking movie?
I still had issues with it. A few issues. A few issues, okay? No movie was perfect. I didn't say this movie was perfect.
Yeah, you're pretty damn fucking close.
Oh, my God, man. You didn't like it? That's fine. As we said, film is subjective, as we always say. It's true. Comedy is subjective. I'm not a DC fanboy. I like a lot of DC properties because I think they have great stories to tell. But, you're not going to see me saying, well, Batman and Robin was great because it had Batman in it. Why did you like it? Because Batman was in the movie. That's being a fanboy. That's not what I'm about. That movie is shit. But it's good for a laugh. It is damn entertaining.
Oh. Well, I think there's going to be a war between you two here, so...
There kind of was brewing.
Dude, it's been brewing ever since we said we were going to do this.
Yes, I know.
We've been back and forth for days on this one.
So, I'll give my opinion. I don't really have a favorite scene. There are things I like about it. There are definitely images that I liked about it. The mental health messages... I felt like meanings that we went over, I don't have to reiterate them again, but like listening to people and mental abuse, it's definitely something that I think people should consider and have more care in the world for others. But as far as the movie itself, I feel like it's kind of a Tom Hanks movie where it's good, it's made well, it's acted well, but you see it once and you go, okay, I saw it. As a fan of the Joker character, I really wasn't all that too crazy about the realism of it. I prefer more of a comic book come to life, like I said at the beginning of the show. I think they did do some really neat things, whether it was intentional or not, with the adoption, kind of keeping the name out of it. But I also feel like this is a character that you shouldn't feel sympathy for.
Fuck no.
Like, I think even growing up as a kid, something was always wrong. Even if he was abused, he kind of liked it. And he just keeps it going. And he just, like, the laughing is the, like, hit me again. Ha 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 ha. Because it's fun. And causing this chaos is his fun. It's not a sympathy kind of character. I mean, I feel like what they did was somebody made a pitch and said, here, I got this movie that was inspired by a Joker come to life movie, and Warner Brothers just said, well, Justice League really bombed, and let's actually make this a Joker origin story and say it is, and just throw like the Bruce Wayne, names and Joker stuff in here and there. Like, this could easily not be a comedy. I mean, a Joker comic movie.
I don't think it was.
Maybe that was the intention. Is it a good movie? Yeah, it's made well. It just doesn't have any lasting impact to me. Even, like I said, besides the personal impact it had, I can still recognize the great things it does have, which it does. I don't feel like it holds any rewatchability to me, really. I mean, I did enjoy the music, the cinematography. Joaquin Phoenix definitely earned all the praise he did. Todd Phillips, of course, I mean, hey, good for him, man. Continue being a pioneer and continue to do other things and go outside the box, because that's what a filmmaker should do, and he's done it well, so kudos to him.
He pushed for the R rating, and he had to fight tooth and nail to get it, because they were originally going to make this PG-13. He's like, no, please make this an R rating, because there are things I want to do and tell in this movie. And they budged, and they allowed it to happen. Thank God. Because I'm tired of seeing the cliche PG-13 comic book movie. I'm tired of that, because it seems like they all are. Why can't we get some more edge? I mean, we had that with Birds of Prey. Thank God it was rated R, even though it may not be doing well financially, but I don't care. I like the movie. I enjoyed it. Why can't... I mean, Deadpool 1 and 2 and Logan were very successful, and they were R-rated. Why can't we get more of this? And I was hoping for... And I'm glad we got that. Now, this movie is going to make a long impression on me for years to come, just because of the questions it asks everybody, asking to look deep inside ourselves. It's not an easy movie to watch. This is certainly not for everybody, because if you can't handle like depression or terrifying things that could possibly happen to a person, it's not the movie for you. Don't watch it. Don't go in this movie expecting to see a comic book action-y film. This is a dark character study, and I do think that it has rewatchability, but not as much. I will gladly watch it every now and then when it's on, but I won't watch it every fucking day, because that's insanity. I do have a favorite scene, and it basically is the moment where he stands on top of the hood of the squad car and is being praised by all the people of Gotham coming together, cheering him, and he puts on that bloody smile. It's the combination of everything building to this moment. The music just getting bigger and bigger, the cinematography, and then him finally smiling on his own for the first time in the entire movie. And it's just such a powerful image. It's scary, it's destructive, but it's a moment where you can't take your eyes off it. That's why I really love it. As for a least favorite scene, the one thing, of course, I was turned off by was after he kills the three guys and he dances in the bathroom, he basically walks into Zazie Beetz' apartment implying that they're going to have sex, but he's got blood all over his face, and she just goes with it, allows it to happen. The door closes. I'm like, what is this? Are you kidding me? But then you realize it's not real. It's a fantasy that's just playing off in his head. Their entire conversations, their interactions. I'm glad that this guy is doing something about those three guys. Fuck them. You only got like 8 more million people to kill that are probably just like them. But that was probably the one thing that probably really, really didn't need to be in the movie. It's just one thing that kind of took me out. And I actually, also going back into this, there's a line that Murray says, okay, well, I guess I can understand why you did this. I'm trying to, maybe make a breakthrough with this guy. Did you do it to start a movement, to become a symbol? Kind of like Batman becoming a symbol. Is Joker going to become the symbol, before Batman becomes a thing? That's just what kind of harkened back to, Batman needed the image of a bat and kicked the shit out of people. Joker needs to kill people with a smile on his face to become the image of the Joker, the symbol. But yeah, I do think this is a brilliant movie, even though I do think that it is predictable. You can see where it's going. If you especially see movies like Taxi Driver and King of Comedy, where it does borrow some elements, some storytelling elements, even though it really is doing its own thing. But you can kind of tell where the story is going, and it's predictable, and that one really off-putting Zazie Beetz sex implication that was going to happen didn't need to be there. So that's my 2 cents.
What, you done kissing its ass now, or what? You're saying the one scene that you thought was a little fabricated was the whole like, oh, he's got blood on him, let's go and fuck now.
So I wasn't done, Jeff. Oh,
Yeah, I know. That's pretty much what this felt like. Ever since we talked about this movie, that's all I feel like I keep hearing. You're just like, ah! But it's the thing, like, this movie is, in a way, like, I felt like it did not deserve the hype. Be it controversial or why everyone fucking loved it. Because it is so goddamn overrated. They're like, oh, it's a Joker movie, rated R. No one gives a fuck. They used it as a political fucking standpoint on motherfucking gun control. We didn't need it. I don't care which way you swing with it. I don't give a fuck. I just want to watch a movie about a fucking insane person killing motherfuckers. I don't need a sappy backstory on why he's like this. I don't fucking want to see him have a love story. I just want to see him progress into madness over time and murder motherfuckers.
you got that.
But we didn't. We've got, at the end, a Patrick Bateman motherfucking twist. Did it actually fucking happen? Is it really what everything we saw? Did it fucking actually become what it really is? And I see you over there fucking holding it in. Do it. But here's the thing. Like, as I'm watching this movie, I, for one, didn't want to see it to begin with. I'm like, we didn't need it. As I'm watching it, like I said, I was like, all right, I'm going to go in an open mind. And that's when I started noticing all that stupid political shit we did not need in a movie. If it's a comic book movie, keep it a comic book movie. If you want it to be real, make it a fucking real comic book movie. Don't fucking try to hide other fucking agendas inside a movie that does not need to be there. We need a movie where it just, from point A to point B, cool, we got that. We don't need anything fucking else. Just let it fucking handle what's going on. I mean, like, dude, we saw this dude have a shitty life. Everyone has a fucking shitty life. That's just the way shit is. But this did not need to be the way to extend it bid. Yeah, he got abused. Cool. I'm not condoning that. I'm just saying. I saw that look you gave me.
Good. Glad he got abused.
I understand that's where he got his a mental disability from.
Power. Oh my god.
His mental disability from. But in reality, like, we are talking about an insane person who loved killing because he loved killing. Now we're like, oh, we got to have a heartfelt moment about the Joker actually being a human being, when truthfully he really wasn't. He was he was a fucking monster. He killed millions of fucking people. We didn't need the fact that, yes, he was an abused child that built this up into becoming a symbol of a fucking monster. He was a monster from the beginning. He's going to be a monster at the end. We don't need all this fucking love for him. We want monsters. We need the monsters. We don't need the sappy parts to make the monster even better.
Well, we got a monster. We did get a monster.
But-
I'm not condoning anything he did. He's a psychopath.
But I agree with Jeff, is that Joker is like a Michael Myers. He's just evil. You know, you don't need that shit. That's why in The Killing Joke, which is probably one of the best Joker origin stories, like, really, I prefer Killing Joke over this movie as far as a Joker origin story. Because not only is it a Joker origin story, but it's a Batman interaction. Like, I feel like, you know, they need each other to tell a story. And when Joker even says in The Killing Joke, if I am going to have a past, I prefer it to be multiple choice. Which is just leaking to his insanity. And you can argue and say, well, what about those flashbacks? That was tragic. He had a wife who was pregnant, and he was a failed comedian in that. But did that really happen? Or is that just his favorite that he reiterates? Because even in the comic book Mad Love, when he's talking to Harley Quinn, he's telling her, oh, I would drop my pants for my dad and try to make him laugh, but he punched me in the face and broke my nose. And then she's feeling for him. And then she calls out Batman and says, you don't know about his past. And he goes, let me guess, did he tell you he was abused? Did he tell you you were like the only person that he could actually fall in love for a madman? He goes, the list goes on. Maybe you really don't know him like I do.
But that proves the point. Like, everything we saw may have never happened.
Multiple choice.
I would say
Some of it feels like multiple choice.
Those two dick
pics?
Yeah, dick pics. That's what I'm thinking about right now. No, those two times where it actually shows him in the asylum, those are probably the only real thing about this fucking movie. So he's in a padded cell and he murders his doctor at the end of the movie. Those might be the only real thing about this movie. All that other stuff may have not happened. He may have killed somebody, and that's what got him there. Or because of him being abused, he got there. But does it actually happen? Like he was saying, like there is so much that the Joker uses in his wheelhouse to make it seem like he was sane at one point. No, man, most of the time he is just a crazy person, like mobster that loved killing people. Yeah, it was the chemicals in the vat that turned him to the extent of crazy. It was everything up to that point that did not change who he was. It just enhanced the crazy. He was crazy then, crazy now. We don't need the sappy stuff in between.
The major positive that I feel this movie gives is the mental abuse awareness and the mental illness awareness. Listening to people if they do have a problem. Don't try to twist it around like what they said with the media stuff, like, you know, the 3 kids die and it's a big deal. Well, what about, you know, he was attacked. You know, you got to look into things like that. We hear that in the news constantly. Like there was that, I'm not going to get too into it, but that Trayvon Martin thing. You know, we heard one side of the story in the news and then other things are coming out that maybe he wasn't so innocent after all, and the guy who shot him was being attacked by him, but the news has to hype it up as, no, this was a kid that was just brutally murdered, and it was like, well, he's actually got more of a past here. But that's all I'm going to say. I don't want to stir shit up with that because that's done and over with, and that's a whole nother thing. We're talking movies here. Right. But that's something to keep in mind and be aware of, that things get manipulated so much. And that also screws with people.
Yeah. One thing I tried to look for in this movie, this is, I think it was like the 4th time I saw it, but I tried to pay attention to see if the sign was still intact. Because the boss at Ha-Ha's was yelling at Arthur Fleck saying, hey, the guy wants his sign back. Where is it? I got jumped. That's bullshit. They jumped you over a sign. I tried to actually look in the apartment to see if there was any kind of image of the sign, because if the sign was intact, then none of that shit ever happened. That he actually took the sign. He was never beat up by kids. He was never jumped in an alleyway. I couldn't find anything. But some people have led to believe if you could see the sign in his apartment, then that shit didn't happen with the kids. He really stole it. He was losing his mind. I didn't see it though. But that's one theory that people have been having, is what is real and what isn't. The idea that, was he killed when the ambulance made contact with the squad car and he died in that moment, or was the whole thing taking place in a padded cell the whole time, and then that one scene where like you were away for a while, and then just goes to the end with him smoking the cigarette, talking to the psychiatrist. What is real and what isn't? Kind of like what we talked about, American Psycho. What was real in that movie and what wasn't?
It definitely is a movie for film school. There's a lot of great things for, you know, lighting, sound, music, acting, directing. I will say that if you want to watch a movie that can inspire you to do filmmaking, this is definitely one of them. Like I said, it doesn't really hold too much rewatchability for me. I feel like the Joker is kind of typecasted to me, where, like I said, every time I watch this movie, I feel like this isn't a true Joker origin story. I know this character better than what this movie was from the comic books. And I tried to watch it again in preparation for this episode as, like, you know, just think of it as a movie, not as Batman, you know, and limiting the Bruce Waynes and the Waynes and just take them out of that comic book thing. And I just couldn't. I just really could. I tried, and all I could just see with it was they're taking the comic book character and they're basically spoon-feeding us this political version, feel sorry for him. And in a way, the movie itself is kind of like the message of the movie, where it's like they're twisting this shit to make you feel bad for, you know, the guy doing the tragedies, when really the people who are the victims are looking like the bad guys. So the movie itself is kind of like
almost in a way contradicting itself.
Yeah. I'm sorry, did I offend you?
I think I would have at this point. You guys got any more to say?
I think we talked a lot about it. One thing I will say is that, the controversy wasn't worth it. And did we see an uptick of serial killers after American Psycho was released? No. So we didn't see any uptick of psychopaths after Joker came out. So I don't know. It was well overhyped, and the controversy was well overhyped. It didn't deserve any of that, but that's that.
No, you're right. I agree. Even when this movie was coming out, I thought, why? Even in the trailers, I didn't see anything that... They didn't give too much, but just enough to go, what else is he going to do that's so super violent? I just don't see it in this movie. It's just going to tell the story of this guy's path to transition.
Is he going to pull a Temple of Doom and rip somebody's heart out? Kalima! No.
I probably would have enjoyed it more. I'm not gonna lie. They could have lied to me and be like, Joker power. I don't fucking know.
I mean, I think it would have been cool if it was an actual Joker talking to Harley Quinn in the asylum. I would have liked to have seen that because that's the comic book lore, and they were trying to get Margot Robbie for like 3 other different side movies. So, hey, why not?
They were throwing a lot of things at the wall to see what would stick. I knew they were not going to honor all of those movies. There's no way you could do that. Especially with the idea of Jared Leto like mailing people used condoms and shell casings to people for Suicide Squad. He went way overboard with this stuff.
And talking about that, you hear about people who are assholes on set because they get way too in the character. Mm-hmm. Going back to a guy like Heath Ledger and how they said, oh, he went into this dark place. I remember listening to Michael Jai White talk about how he was so professional on set that even there were scenes where he wasn't on camera, but he still put on the Joker makeup to let other people feel the character being there. You know, if he was totally lost in that character, I don't think he would have said, oh, yeah, well, here, let me, put the makeup on, get back in the character just so that they can get a better performance. And I even heard that in Dr. Parnassus, that I forget the actress's name, but she played the daughter.
I don't remember.
She was still kind of green, and they said that Heath was actually like coaching her while they were acting to bring out a better performance with her, which it was so professional of him to do that. Yeah. And I like hardly ever heard a bad thing about Heath Ledger. It's a real damn shame. But what I'm saying is that sometimes I think these like over dramatic statements of how far actors go, I think sometimes it's just their egos, and they just like, oh, don't offend me, Right, yeah. This is my scene. Yeah. It's like, just shut up and act. So you guys have anything else to add to
I think we're
Joker?
Good. I think we're good.
Jeff?
Nah, man, I'm good. I got it out.
We don't agree, but hey, it's cool. Film is subjective.
That's life.
That's life.
This was a really interesting discussion because we had 3 real different strong opinions on things. John absolutely loves this movie. Jeff absolutely hates it. And I see it for the art that it presents and the message and the meaning that it does give to everybody, and I hope it does stick with some people, at least just a few, to really consider a good message. But I'm not a huge fan of the movie. I think it's something to see, but I wouldn't put it on a list of you got to see it before you die. And as a comic book fan, as I said before, I don't prefer this, and I don't consider this a Joker origin story. I'd much rather have the Killing Joke and Mad Love with Harley Quinn. I think they tell better Joker stories.
I'll tell you one thing you don't need to see. Strippers at 3 p.m. on a Monday. You don't need to see that. That's one thing you don't need to see. We're gonna end it at that.
I'm fucking lost.
John, do you need to talk about something?
No, that's for another session.
Well, anyway, now that you mentioned it.
Maybe starting our own asylum was a bad idea. We're gonna have to put padded walls in the Loomis room here.
Probably, dude. It's getting close.
Well, I think we're gonna wrap this up. So, until next time, guys, we are going to end this session at the asylum. This is Colin Peters,
John Mershadder,
and Jeff Manfred.
Stay crazy, y'all.
Please, somebody help me.